Good day, everyone. The topic that I will be discussing to you is all about critical incident stress management. And for today's objective, or today's objectives, a review of the cause and effect of stress, how to identify stress and how to manage it, an overview of critical incident stress, crisis management, and critical incident stress management. Every day in our life, stress is a normal process. Whether you are young or old, student or professional, stress is a normal process of life. There are two kinds of stress. One is what we call eustress, equals good stress. They are positive, motivating stress. Another one is distress. It is equals to bad stress. They are negative, excessive, and debilitating stress. Anxiety and stress are both emotional responses. They're just like identical twins. Parang kambal, magkapareho, pero may pagkakaiba. Stress is a response to an external threat in a situation, while anxiety is having persistent and excessive worries, even in the absence of a stressor. So we can see the effect of stress on our body from the top of our head to the sole of our feet, beginning from the nervous system to the musculoskeletal system. It is always affected when we are under stress. Anxiety leads to nearly identical set of symptoms as stress. So stress is a normal process of life. It is normal, but the intensity and frequency of life's traumatic events and the individual's response can lead to crisis. So now, what is a crisis? Crisis is a situation where normal coping skills are gone, where normal solving skills are gone also. And so it's just like this. Notice the two-person arguing with the same perspective. Of course, on the other side, the person view that there are four logs, but on the other side, it is three. Another one are two persons arguing whether the number is six or nine. They're both the same, isn't it? So based on our perspective, sometimes we are being stressed. But if we consider the perspective of others, then it would become a smooth sailing relationship or environment. Some generic sources of stress, they are biogenic, they are environmental, and personality. Biogenic stress when it is involved with caffeine. If we are fond of drinking coffee or nicotine or amphetamines or cold and allergy medicines or illness, they are called biogenic stressors, even lack of sleep. Some environmental stressors are rain, temperature extremes, sounds, screams, mud, and even smells. Personality stressors also, the way people are hardwired For instance, we have different temperament. If you are choleric, sanguine, phlegmatic, or melancholic. Stress is cumulative. It builds up over time. And cumulative stress, when it is piled up, it increases with time, it deteriorates performance, relationships, and health. We used to call it burnout. So you oftentimes hear people saying, "Oh, I'm burnout." And you are being burned out with a manifestation of increased cynicism, with increased physical lethargy. Even though uh, you wake up early in the morning, but as if that you are very tired. That is physical lethargy. Procrastination. It is the delaying of activities that you can do now for tomorrow. In the extreme, even suicidal or homicidal thoughts or ideations. This is a situation where you are doing soliloquy, which means I'm going to kill myself. That is ideation. So some signs and symptoms of cumulative stress are tardiness, fatigue, detachment, depression, medication or drug use, irritability, gallows humor. Those people who are fond of giving humor as if that they are covering their symptoms of excessive stress. So be careful. If you are the joker in the group, you might have symptoms of cumulative stress. Paranoia or irrational fears, derogatory speech or labeling of others, denial, and increased workplace absences, including irresponsibility. These are all signs and symptoms of cumulative stress. So, how to recognize excessive stress? There are manifestations of stress, and it can take a number of forms. It can manifest physically, cognitively, emotionally, and even behaviorally. For physical manifestations, excessive sweating, nausea or vomiting, heart palpitations, elevated blood pressure, rapid breathing, dizziness, and sleep disturbances or changes in sleeping habits. It could be an insomnia or sleeping too much. For cognitive manifestation, you can recognize it when a person has difficulty making decisions, poor concentration, constant worrying, forgetfulness, and disorganization, and even pessimistic or seeing only the negative side. Whatever you introduce, they always say it's impossible. Whatever you suggest, they would always say that cannot be workable. How about for emotional manifestations? They are emotional shock, anger, grief, depression, feeling totally overwhelmed. And all of this would be manifested in behavioral manifestation. It is changes in ordinary behavior. The person who used to be happy now is a loner or she's a loner. The changes in eating habits. It could be that the person who likes to eat, but now he is skipping meals or vice versa. Decrease personal hygiene. The person you use to see that they are, well, they dress presentably, now they lack personal hygiene. And prolonged silences. The person who used to talk and share his experiences, then that person will now practice silence and withdrawal. Withdrawal is when you do not want to associate with other people, you do not want to get out from your room, even inside your house, you always want to stay inside your room. So there are stress response timeline for immediate up to 24 hours post event. For delayed, it takes 24 to 72 hours post event. And for cumulative or build up stress over time. So our focus is on the traumatic stress from critical incident. What is a critical incident? It is used in military combat known as transient situational disturbance. You may hear from your relatives before, nabaros when no nawar siya. So it is a transient situational disturbance. Critical incidents are events that threaten physical, emotional, and even your social life. And critical CISM, critical stress incident management, is designed to provide support for those who have experienced traumatic event. According to one of its developers, Dr. Jeffrey Mitchell, critical incident stress management is not a type of psychotherapy. It is a psychological first aid. The goal with critical incident stress debriefing is to help people undergo trauma to return to their normal lives as soon as possible. So what is the CISM principle? It is an acronym of BICEP. Sa mga mahilig na nag-gym, remember BICEP. B stands for brevity. It is a short-term counseling. Immediacy. It is immediate in nature. We do not prolong it. It is simplicity because it's so simple. It's expectancy because even though it is short term, but the expectancy for the person to recover is 100%. And proximity because it is easy to use. It is available to use. You do not have a training in counseling or a degree in counseling. You just have a, a seminar workshop on this and you can perform it. Post-traumatic stress is a normal reaction of a normal person to an abnormal event. Post-traumatic because the cumulative stress napabayaan, kaya ang ah, ang resulta niya naging post-traumatic. So post-traumatic is an abnormal event and a survival mechanism, whereas post-traumatic stress disorder, it is considered in the uh, is a mental illness, which is a pathogenic, unhealthy variation of that normal survival mechanism. So, what are the stages of post traumatic event debriefing? This is now the first aid that we will do to the person experiencing trauma. So, they do not need a professional counselor like me. You can do it by following these steps. One, introductory stage. You define the nature, the limits, the roles, and goals within the debriefing process. Clarify time limits, number of sessions, and terms of confidentiality. Confidentiality is very important because the person can only open the critical incident or the traumatic event or the crisis they're experiencing if they knew that you will not share this to others. Then after the introductory stage, you go now to the fact stage. Group members are asked to make a brief statement regarding the event. The counselor listens for any attributions of guilt, extreme emotional responses, or post-traumatic stress reactions. So notice, just observe if there are attribution of guilt and extreme emotional responses. Survivors are encouraged to engage in a moderate level of self-disclosure with counselor-facilitated statements such as, I didn't know, could you tell me what that was like for you? So wag mong pangunahan yung client pero bigyan mo siya ng lead by saying, hindi ko alam, pero pwede bang sabihin mo sa akin kung ano yung nangyari sa'yo? And then it is important for the counselor to try to achieve an accurate sense of the survivor's world. So kung ano ang nararamdaman niya, wag mong sabihin na okay lang yan, naranasan ko rin yan. Hindi pwede yun dahil halimbawa, namatayan siya ng kapatid. Wag mong sabihin na okay lang yan, naranasan ko rin yan, namatayan din ako ng kapatid. Ikaw, ito yung kapatid mo, sila, dadalawa lang sila magkapatid. So, hindi pa rin magkapareho. So, you have to achieve an accurate sense of the survivor's world. Be aware of the survivor's choice of topics regarding the traumatic event. So hindi basta tatanungin mo lahat-lahat ng nangyari sa kanya. Gain insight into their priorities for the moment. Ano ba priority niya? Yung problema niya sa lola niya, problema niya sa magulang niya, problema niya sa girlfriend or boyfriend niya, o problema niya sa pag-aaral niya, o problema niya sa pandemic. Huwag mong gawin lahat-lahat at pag-isahin. So, you have to take one step at a time and help survivors see the many factors which contributed to the traumatic event and the to curtail self-blame. Ito yung dapat na maiwasan, yung self-blame. Dahil walang sino man na makakaranas ng traumatic event, ng crisis, ng kahit anumang mabigat na problema, nasasabihin mo, dahil siguro ganito ang ginawa kong malikot. So, you have to curtail self-blame. Dahil walang sino man na gustong mangyari sa atin ang anumang mga critical incidents na ito. So, the third stage will go now to the life review stage. Maintains that a life review provides an opportunity for the group members to recount personal anecdotes about the disease kung namatayan man siya. So ano yung mga personal na istorya nila sa pangyayari? So you have to monitor the timeline, the life review stage para hindi mas nauuna ito o mas nahuhuli ito. Dapat it is chronological. And then the feeling stage. Clients should have the opportunity to share the burden of the feelings they are experiencing in a non-judgmental, supportive, and understanding manner. Hindi yung sasabihin mo na, ay, sinabi ko na kasi sa'yo yan noon, di ka nakinig, kaya yan, kasalanan mo. It should be non-judgmental, supportive, and understanding manner. Let the client just share their burden. And then survivors must be permitted to identify their own behavioral reactions and to relate to the immediate present. Example, the here and now. Huwag niya munang isipin paano na kaya pag halimbawa na-rape siya, paano na kaya ang buhay ko sa susunod. Yung ngayon muna. Kung halimbawa, biktima siya ng COVID, huwag na muna niyang isipin na baka mamamatay na ako kasi hindi naman lahat namamatay ng COVID. Nakikita naman natin na mali yung mga pinapakita sa mga social media na nakakatakot. Actually, yung mga nasa quarantine facilities, ano lang ba naman yung mga ibinibigay, di ba? Vitamin C, yung Lagundi, at saka multivitamins so that they will have a strong immune system. Hindi tatakutin mo na, baka mamamatay ka na dyan. The counselor begins by asking feeling-oriented questions. Ano tong feeling-oriented questions? How did you feel when that happened? So always focus on the feeling. And how are you feeling now? Yung pakiramdam niya noon, pareho rin ba hanggang ngayon? This is a critical component where survivor acknowledge that things do not get better with me. So mahalaga na tingnan natin na dapat habang sinasabi nila yung problema nila, nababawasan din yung traumatic incident na nararamdaman nila. This is the heart of the whole process of debriefing, so that no one gets left out of the discussion and that no one dominates the discussion at the expense of others. All feelings, positive or negative, big or small, should be heard. Kung iisa lang siya, okay lang. Pero paano kung marami yung client mo? Kasi ang critical incident pwedeng isa, pwedeng pang maramihan, pwedeng individual, pwedeng group. So, kailangan magsalita sila lahat. Then, we go to the reaction stage. The counselor asks us question as, what reactions did you experience at the time of the incident? And what are you experiencing now? So, ano ang naramdaman mo noon at ano ang nararanasan mo ngayon? Then, the learning stage. The emphasis is on describing how typical and natural it is for people to experience a wide variety of feelings, emotions, and physical reactions to any traumatic event. Sabi ko kanina, stress is a normal process of life. And critical incidents, darating din ito sa buhay natin at hindi ka naman nag-iisa, kundi maraming mga tao ang nakaranas ng mga ganito. So people have wide variety of feelings, emotions, and physical reactions to any traumatic event. But what is more important is what is now your learnings and realization out of this traumatic event. So the critical to this stage is being alert to danger signals in order to prevent destructive outcomes and to help survivors return to their pre-crisis equilibrium and interpersonal stability. So dapat manumbalik kung siya ay ninenervyos, kung nandoon yung mga physical, emotional na manifestation, behavioral manifestation, ma-pacify natin, ma-diffuse natin, at manumbalik sila sa normal na kalagayan. Then we have the closure stage. Pag may introductory, syempre may closure. Clients should be aware that closure is taking place. Therefore, no new issues should be introduced or discussed at this stage of the debriefing process. So i-guide natin ang mga tao na nagka-experience ng trauma o critical incidents na palapit na yung closure. huwag ka nang mag-open up ng ibang discussion kasi papalapit na yung closure. So kailangan i-guide din natin sila na alam na nila na malapit na yung katapusan ng session na yon para mag-close na yung emotional pain at mga memories na yan. So it is important for the counselor to examine whether initial stress symptoms have been reduced or eliminated. Dahil kung hindi, wag mo munang i-close kung hindi pa nare-reduce yung initial stress symptoms. Assess the coping abilities of the survivors or the client. So ano ang kanyang coping ability? Nakikita ba na kayang-kaya na niya talaga na pag-clinose natin ang debriefing, manumbalik yung dati niyang normal na pamumuhay and determine if increased levels of relating to others and the environment have occurred. Example, the survivor genuinely hopeful regarding that immediate future. Are the survivors managing their lives more effectively? Kaya na ba nilang tumayo na wala ng guidance yung nagbibigay ng support sa mga survivor? So what are the goals of critical incident stress management? To prevent traumatic stress. So more on prevention. As they say, prevention is better than cure. Mitigate traumatic stress. So mitigate, we help to prevent the traumatic stress, and we mitigate, we give some first aid and then intervene to assist recovery from traumatic stress. We intervene, we engage in the situation, we practice empathy. Empathy is we know their feelings, but we help them get out from that critical incident or traumatic event. And then accelerate recovery. We help them to recover and then restore function. So these are the goals of critical incident stress management. So we know that in the process, we are dealing with the cognitive and the emotional. So we introduce, we know the fact, we have to examine and observe their thought patterns, and then observe the reaction, the feeling, and then the symptoms. If there are still symptoms, we go back and process it, and then we teach them that there are many people who have variety of experiences with traumatic incidents and they were able to recover, and then we guide them for the reentry, which means that they can go back to their normal situation. So for the references for further readings, you can go surf the internet, and I believe that critical incident stress management works. If you have some questions, you can email me at my email jaimepumse28 at gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and I am now ready to entertain your questions. Good day. God bless.